Good evening. We've already opened the meeting before going into executive session. Now we're reconvening in open session. And welcome to visitors. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via Montague Community Television broadcast. Also are inviting people to join the meeting using the Zoom link that's on the agenda. Anyone who'd like to may be in the Zoom audience, so that's available for you. Public participation is available at this time. Policy BEDH has been reinstated to hold public participation remotely, but as of now, we've not had anyone who indicates they would like to participate tonight. Also, we are live streaming on MCTV, and a recording of the meeting will be available on MCTV and on our Gill-Montague Regional School District website as well. And just a quick reminder for anyone who's in our Zoom audience, please remember to keep your video and your microphone turned off during the meeting. Thank you. Okay, Brian.
Of course, I once again start speaking while I'm muted. Important events coming up. The Pandemic Response Advisory Committee will have a last meeting before vacation tomorrow, 4:15 to 5:15. Reminder that April vacation is April 19th through the 23rd. There is a Spruce Up Gill School Day being held Sunday morning of April 19th from 9 to 12 p.m., sponsored by the Friends of Gill. There'll be donuts and some beverages there for people who volunteer to come up to Gill and help them spruce up the grounds. The next Friends of Sheffield meeting is planned for April 28th at 4:45 p.m. and the next Gill School Council meeting is planned for April 28th at 6:15 p.m. And that's it for important events. If you want to do Audrey's report before mine.
Yes, our student council rep. Hi, Audrey, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
All right, so I have one update, well, not update, but we had the Hyannis State Conference over the weekend and 4 of our council members attended because it's kind of hard because it was on the weekend this year, so and a lot of us work on the weekend, so not everyone was able to attend. There were virtual workshops and there was a few guest speakers, so that was nice, and everyone that went said it was good, but it was different obviously because it was virtual. And then I have a few student concerns that have been voiced in the student body. So one of the concerns that's been going on in the high school is that the Wi-Fi is very it's very insufficient. So it's not supporting students and staff. It's come to surface that many students have to use personal hotspots, which I think is unreasonable, as students shouldn't have to worry and use their own personal devices to get onto class and complete assignments. And there's also a huge issue with meets being laggy and teachers not being able to show videos in class for the remote students, which is kind of at a disadvantage for the students at home because sometimes harder concepts taught in class are easily conveyed through videos for some people, like the visual models and hearing things in a different way. So there's a disadvantage to that for students at home. And then also with the Wi-Fi being insufficient, teachers are taking time out of learning and teaching time to fix it and try and deal with it. So there's a lot of times where teachers have to pause class, which is taking away from our learning. And then it was pretty much a concern because when we go back to school in a few weeks, with almost double the students probably, we just don't want the Wi-Fi issue being even worse than it is now. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then there's also a senior class concern regarding awards night. It was brought to our attention that it wouldn't be happening, but since then I'm not sure if there's been a plan or anything talked about further for a plan, but we would like to hear of some plans soon, if that's
Mhm.
reasonable. So,
So Audrey, Ms. Menard and I are actually meeting on that at all the end of year activities tomorrow so that I can get comment
perfect.
on the prom proposal. And so that's on our agenda to try to figure out not just what to do, but also a contingency in case of rain.
Yep.
Because, you know, where we have a rain date for graduation, we don't
Yep.
necessarily have one for an awards event. So yeah, we have that up for discussion tomorrow. And pretty sure we'll be communicating something by the end of the week.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for bringing us that information, Audrey. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks. I am going to try, before Brian starts again, I am going to try at times to turn off my video, see if that'll help my connection. It really seems to be having a problem tonight. If necessary, I'm going to do that to see if it helps, but I will still be here.
So I just wanted to provide an update, the return to full-time learning, preschool through 6th first. Obviously, we're very pleased to have welcomed so many of our students back to school starting last week. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the facilities staff from across the district for their just exceptional work in moving mountains of furniture back into the buildings and helping with the spacing of desks throughout the building, also assisting with you know, food service, which still needs to be able to happen at 6 feet where students will be unmasked. Facility staff did a remarkable job of getting the elementary schools ready to receive kids, and I'm deeply appreciative. I also wanted to recognize the hard work of the cafeteria staff as they've had to move to several different models of food service and continue to feed remote students in the community. Their work has also been remarkable. I'm also deeply grateful to the teachers and support staff for their work with principals to continuously help us shape the protocols we use, keep our students and staff safe as we welcomed many more students back to campus. And a very special thanks to each of the principals, Assistant Principal Tom Gaffigan, as well as the administrative assistants for coordinating so much. As we know, you know, the administrative assistants really are the ones very often that run our buildings. And I'm very thankful for all the work and communication that people got out there to families. The in-person percentages of students, I did attach a spreadsheet to the end of my report, which has the total number of students remote, as well as the total number of students enrolled at each grade for the purpose of comparison. At this particular point in time, I do want to highlight that even though the numbers right now for students opting for remote at both the middle school and high school are high, that consultation with families, there are some families who still may choose to jump in and come back into school. But the percentages of in-person at Hillcrest are 84% of Hillcrest students came back in person, 87.5% of Sheffield students, and there'll be 5 more students who are due to return after the vacation, so that percentage will go up. And Gill has 93.6% of their students who came back in person. I did want to give a little information about food service on the vacation. Director McArdle will be putting some information out shortly, but basically what we're going to be doing is using the money that the donations from Brian Lamore, from Dean's Beans, and the anonymous donations that came in from members of our community are going to be used once again to purchase bags of groceries for families. And Mr. McArdle is just working on the date to distribute those because tomorrow's distribution is already set with a menu. So it will very likely be the same day next week, but he just wants to make sure who he has and the availability of potential volunteers to assist. And he's planning on using the same routes that we currently use. So we'll get that communication out to the community. But it will be very similar to what we did in the food distribution of groceries through donations on the December break. I did want to add, just wanted to give the committee an update, if there were any questions. Early in the morning of April 8th, the facilities staff alerted the fire department of a concern about the potential smell of natural gas at the high school, middle school. We contacted the bus company first as students were en route, and they immediately brought high school and middle school students back home. They turned them around. And then we put out the communication to families to let them know by phone and email, and then communicated with the staff as well. And we shifted to a remote learning day for secondary students with a 2-hour delay to allow students and staff to transition to remote learning as they had to turn around and then get themselves set up for a remote day. The gas company was contacted and confirmed with their sensor equipment that the source of the smell was not natural gas. Fire Chief Zellman then requested the hazardous materials unit investigate the cause of the smell. After several hours of comprehensive testing with highly sophisticated hazardous material sensors, no trace of hazardous materials was found in the building, and it was deemed safe for occupancy, so we resumed school as normal the following day. Those who came in believed that the source of the smell was from the sink drains in the science lab area, which had not been used for quite some time, and probably beginning the process of getting those wet set off some of the gunk that may have been stored in those drains dry over more than a year's time. And so early in the morning, just before 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday, April 9th, plumbers came in and scoped and cleared all of those drains. And then in addition, the facilities director, Heath Cummings, and his team completed updates and maintenance on a wastewater pH neutralization system that connected to these sink drains, and those measures appear to have removed the odor from the building. And so that's just an update there if anybody had any questions about that remote day. But, you know, we were very thankful that the public safety personnel were so responsive, and they were really, really thorough in their investigation, because they did, like us, they smelled something and certainly had a concern. So we appreciate the direction that they gave us to get everybody home and have everybody in the building.
Any questions for Brian about that information? Okay, thanks, Brian.
So on pandemic-related information, I wanted to say thank you to District Physician Dean Singer, Nurse Leader Melissa Bednarski, and Jimena Cabezas de Pareja for their work with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in hosting a vaccine clinic at Sheffield Elementary today. The initial plan was to administer the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and I was all excited about only getting one shot and that I wouldn't have to make another appointment. And as I got in the car to go to school this morning, I heard on news radio that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was pulled by the FDA and the CDC. So I was concerned that we were no longer going to be having a vaccination clinic. However, instead, the Sheriff's Office, they started a little bit later, but they basically turned around and went back to their storage facilities and brought doses of the Moderna vaccine. So we were able to hold the clinic. And 53 members of the district staff, as well as members of the school community, were vaccinated today at Sheffield Elementary School, and the Sheriff's Office will be back in 4 weeks to administer the second shot. I do also want to note that there were 4 of those 53 people for whom this was their second shot of the Moderna vaccine. So as a result of this, you know, there are a couple of people who are now fully vaccinated. So thank you to Melissa and Dr. Singer, as well as Jimena, for work in organizing that today. Pool testing update, and now at this particular point, district nurses have administered nearly 1,000 swabs of pool testing to students and staff in our pool testing program. This week alone, 280 swabs were administered. So far, all of those tests have come back negative. You know, this program is a really strong preventative survey that allows our schools to stay ahead of potential outbreaks. There are 75 participants at Hillcrest, 90 participants at both Gill and Sheffield, and we still hope that be able to increase those numbers. But at the elementary schools, those are good numbers to give us a survey of the potential presence of the virus amongst the population. But obviously, we would want as many people as we could to provide consent to participate in the pool testing, because it just helps us keep the virus out of the school buildings, or at least reduces the likelihood or possibility of transmission in the building. At the high school, I believe there are 68, and so that number is low. So today, the high school and middle school administrative team and administrative assistants began a mailing. Rather than just counting on online consent, they're mailing home consent forms for both the pool testing and Binax rapid tests for those students who are returning. So we're hopeful that that will get more people at the high school level to jump in, offer consent, and participate in the pool testing program. Melissa Bednarski also attended a webinar on the state's pool testing program, and we were pleased to hear that the state's going to continue funding of the program through August 31st, which means we could conceivably, if we're able to staff it, add pool testing to our summer programming. So we may need separate consents for that unless kids have already signed off, but we'll know a little bit more about that later. The state is changing contractors. So any questions about those things? Okay. Massachusetts remains in step 1 of phase 4 of the state's reopening plan. There's been no walk back at this point, but they also haven't completed the process to the new normal. COVID data in the area, Montague has climbed to 21, although I understand there's a reduction in cases this week, so hopefully we're seeing the curve come backwards with a percent positivity rate of 2.16%. Greenfield with 31 cases, although they only have a positivity rate of 1.29%. And in the area, Orange seems to be the town with the highest numbers. They're in the red with a 7.25% positivity and 62 cases in the town. So that town spiked really precipitously. All other towns remain in the gray in the area. And for staffing, we are in the process of reviewing applicants for the facilities position. And high school CNA position remains posted. We've recently posted for a high school one-to-one paraprofessional. The elementary science teacher has actually been hired. And so that position has been filled, and we have 2 Hillcrest one-to-one paraprofessionals that have just recently been posted. And I think that's it for my summary.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian about this information? Okay, thank you. Business and operations report is in your packet. Brian, did you want to say anything about that, or?
No, I didn't have anything necessarily to add other than to encourage folks to read through the audit report and findings so that we could, in case you have any questions at a future meeting, we will put that on the next school committee, on the next agenda for discussion when Joanne's there, in case you have any questions.
Yes, and I will mention, also take a look at the Gill lease. I know the Gill Select Board is still going to review it a bit more, but we'll need to vote on that before the end of May so that we have a current lease. Any questions about those items? I know the audit is, you know, a lot of pages. I think the most important part was there is no management letter this year because there are no findings in the annual audit, which are really wonderful. It means our system is working.
We've lost you, Jane. We just lost the end of that.
Cassie?
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right, thanks. I'm going to try keeping a lot of things off if I have to make it work better. This time of day, apparently on Tuesdays, is just not good. So. Okay, let's see if I can get through this in one piece. School committee reports. There are 3 AP warrants this time that need approval. I'll entertain a motion to approve all 3 at once if that's acceptable. Number 3126, dated 4/14/2021, in the amount of $187,210.91. The next one is number 3127, the same date, $63,276. And the third is number 3128, same date, $59,833.29. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Heather, thank you.
Second.
And Mike? All those in favor? Oh, guess I better. All right. Looks like we have it unanimously. Thank you. Business. Item A is review and discussion of school reopening plans. Anything else under that, Brian, other than what you've already told us?
So our plan continues to bring all the 7 through 12 students back to the high school and middle school starting Monday, April 26th. Across the district, the tents are up outside, and unfortunately, there was a backlog on our order for the furniture to be used in the outside tents. It arrived in the district today. So those should all be set up and ready, as some students will be having some of their meals outside at each of the schools under the tents to provide adequate spacing to keep 6 feet apart when they're eating. High school, middle school is currently finalizing their meal locations for both breakfast and lunch, and should have those set by tomorrow. Plans are also being made to relocate the desks and furniture to accommodate the increased number of students in classes. While elementary students, and this is really something that I think is very important, and we'll keep this discussion up at PRAC tomorrow. We'll keep this discussion up frequently. We've added additional signage around the building at the high school and middle school because despite the fact that parents really have been outstanding in our district, I mean, and staff have really been outstanding in terms of the responsibility that they're taking to not send symptomatic kids to school, or contacting the school immediately when they find out that somebody in their home is tested positive and looking for advice. And that's been really helpful to help us prevent transmission of the virus in school. And I'm very thankful, very appreciative of how seriously families in the community have taken the virus and are looking to protect one another's children as well as our staff and their families. However, as one might expect with secondary students, although the overwhelming majority of students continue to do a great job with observing social distancing, one of the biggest concerns that we have is the complacency that can happen with older kids. In the elementary school, obviously, you have a teacher out in the hallway lining kids up at 6 feet, and they're great. It's worked really well. At the high school, middle school, they're making the adjustments on their own. It's part of that maturation and adulting process. And the challenge is, for high school and middle school staff who really want the school to be welcoming and are excited to have kids back, they don't want to constantly be being on the kids and crabbing at the kids to stay 6 feet away from each other. We're going to spend a little bit of time getting some information out to families, continuing to do the messaging with the students as they get back together and begin to socialize and become a little bit complacent. We're just hopeful that they'll work harder so that we can maintain, a really welcoming environment at the high school that's safe for everybody. That's a big thing that we need to work on, is really not letting our guard down. We'll continue along full-time in school with regular school calendar for the remainder of the school year at this point. So I'm very excited to be adding students in after the April vacation, and to have all of our students back in the district finally.
Thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian about that information? Thank you. Okay, the next item is discussion and potential vote on Turners Falls High School Program of Studies, including the Innovation Pathways. And I see that Joni Menard is with us from the high school. Welcome.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. For some reason, I cannot start my video. It says, oh, never mind. Thank you, Tina. Oh, no, it says, never mind. Thank you. Okay, good evening, everybody. I wanted just to tell everybody that this is a product of a lot of people putting a lot of careful thought and consideration into this. Christine Limoges, the Director of Teaching and Learning, Beth Fortin, our high school counselor, and all the curriculum directors were involved in this process. So it vetted, it went through a lot of different people, and the curriculum directors brought it back to their departments in the high school. So there was a lot of collaboration on this. So the first thing we did was drop child development. That has not been taught for many, many years. So we just wanted to clean that up. I'm going to come back to Innovation Pathways. I'm going to deal with the Innovation Pathways program just a little bit. I'm going to drop down to physics on your sheet. We had a lot of our students who are interested in science careers or engineering come and talk to us last year that they really felt that they were lacking a physics class in order to get to college. We listened, we heard them, so we are making a change. So we are bringing regular physics back. We had honors physics, but not regular physics. So that is in direct response to our students' request. Just so you guys know, students would have to have already taken advanced algebra or pre-calc, or are currently enrolled in pre-calc. And it really does focus on those pre-engineering topics, and you can see it covers tons of them. More importantly to me, as an old science teacher myself, an old math teacher, it really emphasizes creative problem solving and scientific inquiry. And those are 21st century skills that students really need in order to be successful in any career that they might do within their lives. I'm going to go back to the top. These other 4 classes, these are in direct response into our exciting award of our 2 innovation pathways now. The top 2 are for our innovation pathways in healthcare and social assistance, and the bottom 2 are due to our advanced manufacturing innovation pathways. So let's go over innovation pathways health. All 4 of these, before I get going, are open to all students. Doesn't matter if they're in the pathway or not, all right? The only caveat is, if you are a student that's not in innovation pathways and you take this class, you are not going to get the innovation pathways designation, okay? But you will get awarded the credits, right? In this first class, it's really exciting. Doesn't matter if you're in innovation pathways or not. You will leave the class getting issued a certification, in first aid, in CPR, and OSHA, or occupational safety and health, 10-hour general industry. So again, that opens up students' possibilities. If they're going directly into the workforce, this gives them a huge leg up. If they're applying to college, this is a huge, nice resume builder for them. Most students their age do not have these 3 certifications. If you skip over, already did physics. The other class that we brought on due to our innovation pathways in healthcare and social assistance is innovation to nursing and allied health. This is a really exciting class. This is a 5-credit class. It will be a science class and recognized as a science towards their graduation. The health class does give them credit towards their required health requirement, sorry. Going back to Introduction to Nursing and Allied Health, this is going to be a lab course. It will also be a class where we're going to try to bring in a lot of speakers and exposure to the wide variety of careers in healthcare and social assistance. It goes all the way from mental health to a nurse in a doctor's office, to social organizations, since it's like a United Way or something like that. So there's such a breadth and depth of different occupations in there, but they'll really be concentrating on the promotion of careers in allied health. They'll go over broad topics such as health maintenance and identification, prevention and treatment of diseases or conditions, health and wellness, healthcare delivery system, community-based nursing practice, legal principles in nursing, ethics, and those hands-on or evidence-based practices. So that's really exciting. Those 2 classes, Innovation Pathways in Health and Introduction to Nursing and Allied Health, will be offered for next school year. The final 2 classes we want to get on the program of studies because we were required to by DESE for our innovation pathways. We will not be introducing those though until not next school year, but the following school year, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Both of these are 5-credit classes. The first one is Introduction to Technical Drawing and Blueprint Reading, and these are both really hands-on classes. The first one is an introduction to reading and interpreting working drawings for fabrication processes and associated trades. They're going to be sketching to create pictorial and multiple view drawing students to grasp, and it's a huge skill that they can give it a leg up. There's a lot of concepts in there that kind of spells it out that they'll be doing. The really exciting part for this is each student, again, this is open to everybody, will leave this class being MACWIC certified level 1. Okay, that's a huge, huge leg up if you're going to go directly into a career from Turners Falls High School or if you're going to college. The second class, again, that's open to everybody, but these are both required for the Innovation Pathways Program, Advanced Manufacturing Designation. This one is a practical introduction to lean management principles and techniques, and that is applied to any industry. So it really is broad, and it really teaches them how to manage thoughtfully and leanly in the business environment, and it applies to all different situations. And this class, students would leave with a MACWIC level 2 certification. Now, if you guys don't know, for high school students, the reason why we can't offer it, we are going to have to send one of our teachers to be trained by another teacher in order to be able to issue these MACWIC certifications to our students. And that will be taking place next school year, during the school year. And then these 2 classes will begin the following school year. Again, though, all of these classes are open to any student at Turners Falls High School. Innovation Pathways is definitely not only going to benefit our Innovation Pathways students, but really up our game on our curriculum offerings on a whole. Does anybody have any questions about those?
Thank you, Principal Bernard. Just a question. Were you going to show us a visual of that, or it just wasn't cooperating? Okay.
No, I was not. I was just, Superintendent Beck said you had received this.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes the visual just helps the audience, but I'm sure it would be rather small for them to see anyway on computers. But that is available for them to peruse as part of the agenda packet. Is that correct? So anyone who'd like to see that in more detail is welcome to go online and look at the agenda packet, and they'll be able to read that.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Principal Menard? I must say, I, for one, I'm really pleased that regular physics is coming back as a choice for so many students who seem interested. And Innovation Pathways just looks like such a great program to help our students be prepared for whatever they choose to do after high school. I think that's a great move. Thank you. Cassie?
I'm sorry, did I hear, so regular physics is coming back? Was it not there?
It was not there. I'm not quite sure for how long it wasn't there. We only had honors physics.
How were
And
we
so
handling the MCAS?
We do biology.
Oh, so, okay, so it's not physics and then the retake is biology?
Nope, it's
Okay.
been biology since I've been here.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Principal Menard, and please thank your staff as well. I know it's a lot of work going into these things, but the changes are great. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, the next item is discussion about school committee seat and a vote to approve the election ballot. I'm going to try to leave my video on and see if I don't cut out. I spent a lot of time looking at the regional agreement and policy BBBE in terms of filling vacancies that arise on the school committee, and we have one now from Gill. And the policy, which is very lengthy and convoluted, explains that we need to set and publicize dates to have receipt of letters of interest about filling the position, as well as a date for the actual appointment to fill the vacancy. So we need to do that this evening. It also stipulates that letters of interest will be sent to the superintendent, who will then send copies to the school committee prior to the meeting at which action will be taken. So I was looking at the calendar and thinking publicizing, I would hope, could happen because both of the newspapers generally report on our meetings, and I'm hoping they will put that information out more generally in the public. I can probably double check on that. But it looks as if it would make sense to give people a couple of weeks in case they want to get a letter of interest in. So if it sounds reasonable to the group, we could set April 27th for the date by which we need to receive letters of interest. And by we, I mean the superintendent, who will then forward them. And in that event, then we would be ready at our May 11th meeting to make the actual appointment. That would give people enough time, I think, to get their letters in. If anyone has a different suggestion, I'd welcome hearing it.
When is the election?
Okay, that's the next part of my little speech here, which is another complication. Gill is holding the election on May 7th, as was originally scheduled. Montague has changed the date and is not holding it till June 22nd. And I'm ready to explain what that means for voters and what that means for us as a committee, including our people who are finishing their term. But if it's okay, Bill, could we just go with the dates for now?
Sure. I'm only asking because in the case of Timmy, sorry to see her have to step away, but there's only a week or two between the time you're going to meet this whoever volunteers and the election. So, which may inhibit somebody from even bothering because they
Right,
don't sit
right.
for a meeting.
Right,
In the
case,
second case of Montague, isn't the end date of anyone's term the next election? So that we don't have any openings in Montague, other than you have nobody taking out papers. Or are people resigning in Montague too?
well, not that I know of, please. But as far as I know, that isn't happening. It is a little more complicated when the two towns don't have the election on the same date. And one of it is after but I did look at the regional agreement, and it does say that it's not officially a new committee until both towns or all the towns have voted. So
Right, so we're really just looking for Timmy to replace, right?
right now, absolutely. She's the only one who's resigned. And I mean, I'm more than willing to shorten the time that we're allowing people to send in letters if people would like to do that. I just,
So I'm just trying to clarify for the public. So
Right.
you're right that until both towns vote, so somebody from Gill who wishes to serve will have over a month tenure, which
right.
is more than a couple of meetings. That's
They
all.
would serve until the 22nd of June now.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Do the dates sound reasonable or a different theory? Mike, any suggestions?
Well, what I remember of the district policy, and I don't have it right in front of me, is that the committee decides whether it's even going to try and fill a vacant position because the position is only good until the election. As you say, it's good until both towns have their elections. But if we don't appoint until the 11th and Gill has their meeting before then, well, I don't want to get off into the weeds. You've obviously put a lot of work into it. So I'm going to trust all that because we're talking about a matter of days, one way or the other. But just to be clear, the position, if we fill it, it only remains filled until the next election. So whether it's
Absolutely.
May or June, that person would have to be reelected somehow through the combination of those two town elections. And no reason to get crazy about what would happen. I mean, it's a weird situation, so that's fine. I don't know. I don't know what our agendas look like for the next couple of weeks, but I'd hate for us to spend time that we need to be spending on something else. If it's, basically, they won't even be able to get their feet wet by the time they are appointed, then have to be reelected. So I mean, I certainly support whatever action we want to take, but I wouldn't. I think the district policy gives us the flexibility to choose whether or not to try and fill the positions and when to do that. And I might try and do that after the election because we're going to have other positions to fill and we could do it all at once because we'll have to fill, or we have the option of filling the Montague seats if no one is elected through write-ins or other means. So we may end up doing the process twice.
Yes, it was recommended by the lawyer that I check the regional agreement
Okay.
first, and the regional agreement does not give us permission
Yep.
to not fill it.
Gotcha.
The regional agreement says it shall be filled
Does
by,
it give you a time frame?
no, and neither does the policy BBBE, which
Yeah.
is the one that explains how one goes about filling it. That's where I got the information, and I could have missed it, but I didn't see a choice.
Yeah.
Because I understand what you're saying. It does seem,
Yeah.
yeah. I can double check that afterwards if people would like me to.
Well, would you repeat again the dates for the two elections?
Gill is holding their election as was originally intended on May 17th,
Oh, 17th.
2021.
I'm sorry. I thought you said 7th. Okay. Now that I
No.
forget what I said about the conflict there. Okay.
Okay. And
I get it.
Montague is holding theirs apparently on June 22nd.
I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought we'd be appointing them after the election. So I would.
Oh, thank you. No, if we were, that would not look good. We were. Yes. So do those dates sound reasonable to people, unreasonable, flexible? I don't know, whatever. Yeah. Bill?
If Brian gets it on the 27th, then when are we actually going to be reviewing it?
Okay, the
On the
27th is,
28th?
the 27th is 2 weeks from now.
So that's our meeting.
Right. And then the following meeting is May 11th, which is the time that I felt we would appoint the person.
Yeah, okay.
That was, I mean, we could limit the time people had to get their letters in, make it shorter, and try to do the appointing on April 27th if people so chose. I just didn't know how long it would take. By the time it gets in the paper, that would be Friday-ish.
I think I agree with you. Your date, 27th,
Okay,
and we
Thank you.
consider it in May.
okay. Anyone else? Hearing no objection, I'm assuming that's okay. In that case, I'm going to go on to the less clear issue. As you can tell from the ballot that's in our packet, we've just talked about the election dates for school committee members. The one in Gill being May 17th, 2021, in Montague, June 22nd, 2021. I've done some research on this, and the results of the election as they come in Gill will not be released to the public until after June has held, Montague has held their election in June. That's the stipulation of the law, that it's kind of an embargo on the results so as not to influence voting. So that's how that's going to stand. But because of that, there's a couple of issues that we need to deal with. Because first of all, we need to change our reorganization meeting, which was to be held on May 18th. The good news is we don't have to do that on the 18th. The bad news is we'll have to meet on June 23rd, which is the day after our June 22nd meeting to reorganize. Because election in Montague is on a Tuesday as well. So we'll have to make that change to the calendar, which is not actually optional because we have to reorganize within 72 hours of the election. So we may as well do the next day. And the really large ask that goes along with this is for the 3 members whose terms are ending. I don't foresee the end now until June 22nd. I hope that will work for folks and they'll be able to hang in with us a bit longer. Oh, I see 2 yeses. That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. I have been working on this all day to figure out what we need to do. So it looks like we're good. And in that case, we can go on to the next item, which is approving the ballots to get these elections done. There are 2 copies in your packet. It lists the dates each town is having the elections. It lists anyone who is running for the positions. And I think we simply have to vote to approve them. Anyone wanting to discuss it? Mike? Your audio's a little. What?
Name in the ballot.
Yes, Timmy has
My
taken.
copy has Timmy's name on the ballot. Is she running?
Yes, she is. Timmy has taken out papers and is running again. I think her situation has changed and I think that's great. Cassie?
Just a reminder to Jen and Haley, it's never too late to start a write-in campaign.
Oh, I think that's a great point. You or your friends.
No pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Good
And
luck
as you see, it's.
stopping it right in campaign.
I might have some extra stickers at home still.
Yeah. And as you can see, it's really a fun, easy evening get-together. It works out well. So I will entertain a motion to approve the ballots.
I move.
Second, Heather.
Oh, I lost my paper here. So it's Bill and Heather, I believe. All those in favor? Looks like we have it unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Next item, we need to vote on the updated Unit C job descriptions. Those are in your packet as well. Brian, anything you'd like to add about those?
Just a reminder of the process, and I want to say thank you for Diane Ellis for her work in this reorganization process and consultation that she did with Tina Mahaney. We had put together 2 job descriptions that we reviewed with the committee in executive session, I'd say probably about 6 weeks ago. After that meeting, Diane and I met with union leadership to go through point by point on each of the 2 job descriptions from the positions in her office. And then those annotated documents were then provided to the union, who reviewed it with their board and their MTA representatives, and they sent them back to us as approved. So we just needed to have the school committee vote to approve them so that we can post for the positions. As a reminder, one is the moving the Student Services Admin Assistant and Family Engagement Office as one of the positions, and having the other position be a Pupil Services Database and District Communications Technician. And that will help us to get to some of the monitoring of communications that we have in the district, and be able to stay on top of the website, as well as our submission and disaggregation of data across the district that we so badly need.
Any questions for Brian about those positions? Okay, school committee is responsible when there's a change in job descriptions to approve them. In which case I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Was Cassie first and Heather second? Thank you. All those in favor? Looks unanimous, thank you. And I was so interested in getting out all the information about the elections and the ballots. I think I neglected to mention to the public that, as Mike said, Timmy has taken out papers to run for the Gill position again, but no one has taken out papers for the 2 Montague seats, if anyone is interested. As Cassie mentioned, people can run a write-in campaign if they're interested. All right, thank you. Next item, review of the 2021-2022 school year calendar. Brian, anything on that?
Yeah, so just a couple of notes that there's something on here that I needed to correct, that it says September 7th over on the right. It says first day for pre-K and kindergarten, but that's actually the first full day of school for pre-K and kindergarten. So subsequent versions of this calendar will reflect that. Whereas the first days are currently scheduled to be August 31st as half days for pre-K and kindergarten, with full days beginning on 9/7. The admin team took a look at this, and we will more than likely on the 27th come back with some type of targeted proposal to potentially increase the professional development time in terms of the half days that we have in the district, with the number of initiatives that we have going on, including attempting to catch up on learning loss. There are some really good things that the admin team, with feedback from teachers and service providers, and have taken in, including some of the stuff that I'm going to explain about what we're doing with equity, that may warrant us asking for a couple of more, or a couple of additional early release days for specific reasons, rather than just, so we'd like to come back to the committee with a plan, ask for those, and have them be targeted, so that, one, we're not reducing the amount of time outside of school substantially enough to get families irritated, but making sure that we're able to do the work that we need to do. The other consideration is, if you look at the current proposed calendar, students normally start with a short week, typically before they get to 5-day weeks. And so the current calendar has staff starting on the 23rd of August, students starting on the 26th of August, and then looking at the following week would normally be a 5-day week, but we may want to propose doing a 4-day week and having a 4-day Labor Day weekend for students and for staff, and then coming back with another 4-day week the following week. Might be a nice way to incrementally ease ourselves back into school after the summer. So that's just something that the admin team is going to look at again, and bring that back as a proposal potentially to school committee. And that was basically it in terms of the admin summary.
Okay, so that in a sense is really just a first draft at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
There'll probably be some modifications. Any questions about the first draft as it exists? Because we will be voting, the school committee will be voting on the calendar when it's in the final form. Haley?
Just an observation that I see that this calendar has Christmas Eve off, December 24th, but going right up into the 23rd. So, just a thought that if we were going to have another day off somewhere, maybe it would be appreciated before the winter holiday there.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We will come back to that. And item F, Brian, or anyone else, discussion about issues of equity.
Yeah, so I have two items that I wanted to share. One will actually be a summary and just a little report out that Ms. Menard will provide of the professional development on I Am Not a Racist, Am I? That was done at the high school last Wednesday. But first, I'm very pleased to report, you know, in previous school committee meetings, I had spoken about really needing to do an assessment of our capacity in the district to have a really clear understanding what of next steps should be in terms of training, professional development, dialogue within the community, facilitation, being able to identify trainers, being able to look at places where policy may stand in the way of equity. And I'm very pleased to share that help assess our capacity as a school district in addressing issues of racial equity. We're joining with the Communities That Care Coalition at FERCOG. They have received funding from the Massachusetts Community Health Funds for a 5-year Advancing Racial Justice Schools project to help schools and districts understand their capacity and to build on it. The initiative will begin with surveys for school administrators and teachers. The CTC will aggregate the results of the surveys across all participating districts and publicly share the regional results, much like they do of the health survey. And then schools will also get individual reports. And so we'll use that individual report as a starting place for recommendations for next steps. Rather than contracting with a private agency that doesn't know the district, we're pleased to join with a strong local organization that also provides us with, has provided us with consult on these topics over the years. We'll examine that data and the summary reports to help us build our programming, outreach, communication, professional development, and even potentially recommend structural and policy changes to help guide our schools through the next phase of ongoing work, build a more equitable community and to ensure that we have schools that are in fact actively anti-racist. As part of this, the CTC at the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, after the surveys are completed, will also engage in focus groups with students and engage in dialogue and provide us with additional anecdotal information to round out the report. So it won't just be data. They'll be engaging in conversation, and having it done by an outside group as opposed to us doing it will hopefully get people to be very honest and forthcoming about their thoughts on the topic and how we might make improvements and where we have deficiencies that we need to address immediately. The surveys need to be completed by the administrative team, and principals will release the staff version to our staff to complete, and the deadline is April 30th. We're hopeful that that timeline will get us the information in time for us to be able to most effectively plan our programming for next year. And does anybody have any questions about that?
Anyone have questions for Brian?
I had
I'm really pleased that the Communities That Care group is able to step in and help us with this. You know, they've always been very, very helpful and a great resource for us, and we've always appreciated it.
and it's a fantastic resource because everything that we were looking at was thousands of dollars just to be able to do the assessment the right way. And so being able to they already have the surveys ready to go as a starting point that we can get an immediate assessment from outside providers, and it's funded through the grant that they've procured. So we're really excited also that it's free is good. And also having it be a local group and being able to work with Rachel Stoller spent a good chunk of time with me on the phone today to talk to me about, what they hope to be able to provide schools in the district with information about the topic and what we can do. So that's really exciting. And if I could ask Joni Menard, if she's still on here. I see that she's in there somewhere.
She was.
Her name is still there, if that counts.
Here she comes.
Yeah,
She's unmuting. I mean, would you mind just providing a little summary of the professional development that you did? As you guys may remember, the high school is a little bit further ahead than the elementary schools in some of their training and going through the second year of their work with in teaching tolerance. They've also reached out to other community organizations and I think had a great experience last Wednesday. So,
yes. Okay, so last school year, a secondary racial justice group was formed based on needs that were identified as our own school community. This group is comprised of 25 plus teachers, very dedicated, voluntary, that they're doing this on their own, have been planning on how to continue to move our school's racial justice work forward. And it was collectively decided to bring the movie, I Am Not Racist, Am I?, to our district. Thanks to the funding that Diane Ellis was able to secure through the Safe Schools Grant, the secondary school was able to do so on Wednesday, April 7th. Staff watched this very thought-provoking film that addressed race, racism, prejudice, ethnicity, and bigotry. Our skilled facilitator was phenomenal, and she pushed us to really rethink what privilege is, how we define it, how does it work within our own school community, does everyone have the same privileges, and how we define privilege in the world outside the GMRSD community. This professional development that was held on Wednesday has really proven to be a momentum builder for continued work and growth as a team around equity and racial justice progress. The committee hopes to both be sending staff members and student leaders, it would be high school student leaders, to training this school year, in which both staff and students will become trained facilitators to lead and or support students to students, right, and staff to students in their processing of racial justice work in the upcoming school year. I personally would like to thank this voluntary staff committee for the incredible, tireless work that they have accomplished so far, and look forward to the work to come within our school committee in this year and the upcoming school year. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Principal Menard. That's great. I was privileged to see that movie when they first showed it in the area, and it is very thought-provoking.
thank you very much.
Thank you. And the last item under business, discussion about addressing pandemic learning loss. Brian?
So at our last school committee meeting, I mentioned that we could not get staff for an April vacation camp / learning opportunity. And while I was saying that to school committee, Director of Teaching and Learning Christine Limoges was persistent in reaching out, trying to find a creative way to make this happen, and she did. We've contracted with a group called Little Scholars, and we've managed to staff an April vacation camp that's going to take place between 10 and 2 o'clock. Transportation is going to be provided for K through 5 students. We currently have 38 students registered, and the programming involves hands-on opportunities for students to work with engineering concepts. It's very STEM heavy in terms of, and extremely hands-on, and includes for students the opportunity to begin to dip into concepts in physics, biology, chemistry, geology, astronomy, and zoology, along with older students being able to take on topics such as meteorology. Younger students work with engineering projects by using, larger interlocking bricks, and the grade 3 through 5 students have an opportunity to work more extensively with design and using Legos. So it's a well-designed program, and we're really excited to have a good chunk of students coming in on the April break to extend their learning and do it in a hands-on and fun way. And I really appreciate the work that Christine did in persisting to make this happen.
Thank you. That's great news. Anyone have any questions about that?
I did also want to share information about summer school planning. At this particular point, we have a tentative plan for a 6-week summer program at Sheffield. And again, Christine and the elementary principals came up with what I thought was a great idea. I had mentioned in previous school committee meetings that many superintendents with whom I've consulted around the state have begun posting for summer programs and haven't gotten any interest because, again, and for those of you who are educators, it's been a pretty exhausting year, and people assumed that maybe they'd get a little bit of downtime during the summer. And so there weren't that many people who were really interested. And that was a big concern. So what we've decided to do is to take the camp and segment it into 2-week learning opportunities, a 2-week employment opportunities, so that somebody wouldn't have to commit to the entire 6 weeks. In addition, we've identified some outside organizations that may serve as potential partners. Parks and Rec, Little Scholars may be involved again. Music of Franklin is willing to be involved, and the 21st Century program may also be integrated in here. We're currently looking at doing a pretty full day. Students will be on campus from 9 to 3. And in order to identify students, we've established some criteria to start with. The first thing would be, and Diane Ellis started for us a folder and spreadsheet where we can begin to look at those students who have IEP services for summer school on their service grid. So those are students who we have to provide programming for, so we'll start with those students. We'll then look at priority populations, English language learners, students who might be in foster care or potentially homeless. And then moving to our students who would be identified in an at-risk category on the benchline assessment system and iReady progress monitoring systems for math and ELA, and start there. Once we have all of those students identified, we'll then go through the student support team process and any other spots that might be open. Teachers will work with counselors and administrators to identify students who might not fall into those other categories to recommend them to participate. And if the program's big enough or there's enough interest in the possibility of staffing it, we may open it up every kid, K through 5. We're also taking a look at a suggestion from Sarah Burstein at Hillcrest, the idea of doing some readiness for kindergarten programming as well for students who may be coming out of preschool and going to kindergarten. And at the secondary level, so that planning is underway and the process of identifying students is currently underway. At the secondary level, 7 through 12 is obviously focused right now on getting students through their current courses with their support processes. They are planning to supplement targeted credit recovery remote options for students in 9 through 12. And even though those options are remote for students because the curriculum is really targeted to, the students don't have to do an entire summer school course, they can simply address the concepts that they may not have master those concepts, and then subsequently earn credit as a result of the completion of those identified areas that they need to complete. Despite the fact that the program is remote, it's our intent to staff the school over the summer with teachers and support staff who can provide support for those students in person on campus at the school. And that would be for students in grades 9 through 12. Grade 6 through 8 is currently summer program is currently in process of being planned. So the targeted structure for students in credit recovery is for students in 9 through 12. And we'll need to begin posting for support positions fairly soon, depending. I think we'll probably look at grades in through the third quarter to get a sense of how many students at the high school level are going to need credit recovery opportunities and how many students might be able to catch up by virtue of the fact that we have a block schedule, and early on a course failure or not getting credit might not be an impediment toward making progress toward graduation. So there's some interesting ideas and a lot of work that's been put in so far to begin the process of trying to get as many students connected over the summer to see if we can make up for some lost time, and also have that be something that's fun for kids and something that they want to participate in over the summer.
Anyone have any questions for Brian? I see Diane is with us as well, and I know she's been working on this programming right along too. Diane, anything you'd like to add?
I have to unmute. I have to stop writing the email that I was writing.
Sorry.
Great day at Sheffield today, filling in for Principal Petra. So I was just writing a note of just actions on the day. No, I think the summer planning, it feels like it's coming together a little bit later than we want, but I think that that's just sort of par for the course of what's happening with this year. And I appreciate sort of the creative energy around this. I have a meeting this week, later this week, with the Montague Parks and Rec director, John Dobus. We're still looking at collaborating with the Parks and Rec program, and for some segments of our students. And then I think I just completely lost my train of thought. There's still the idea out there in the community about whether or not we could do something to bring the cast of Matilda together. There's a lot of energy that would feel like a really positive thing. Students had participated in that, and I'm going to circle back to that. I'm sure after this meeting, I'm probably going to get a couple of text messages from the director of that saying, wait, can we really make this happen? So we'd like to be able to try to figure out if we could make that happen, or at least a cast reunion party or some such thing, because I think it's sort of an important thing for our students. We're also looking at collaboration. I've had one meeting and I have a second meeting scheduled with the Mass Migrant program, because we had previously ran a summer program in collaboration with Mass Migrant. So there's a number of things that are kind of in the works. And then the last idea around staffing, which that was the thing that I forgot, almost forgot, is I've identified a number of area colleges to see if we could recruit for new graduates of college programs for our summer program to be able to have an experience working in the district, given that we are expecting a larger summer program than in the past. So I feel like each day there's so much going on, it's sort of hard to even keep track of all the details, but that's what I have to add.
Thank you, Diane. And Brian, please, again, thank everyone who's been working on this, so much to get it in place and to work successfully. I know, again, it's a big task along with everything else, but people are really giving it their all.
I'm really happy with the creativity and thinking outside the box. And also it's great to be able to have the resources that I'm sure that there are going to be some families of younger students who are going to be interested in taking advantage of the opportunity to have their kids transported to, back and forth to camp during the day over the summer, which is not something that we would otherwise be able to do. So, and hopefully, the thinking and planning around having the learning be really fun and hands-on during the summer as much as possible, but also having some really targeted learning areas identified already from the data that the elementary teachers have looked at as well as IEP-related progress monitoring data will be really helpful in terms of hopefully trying to target specific learning loss and have students in better shape when they report back to school in the fall.
I think the thing that's occurred to me as we've gone through a lot of these items is it's nice to see so much collaboration happening, both within the district and outside of the district, with other educational groups, with other community groups, something that we've always wanted to strive for, but doesn't always fit as well. I think we're doing, that's becoming really a really positive thing that's happening.
So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. And the only other item we have to deal with, we need to approve minutes, February 23rd, 2021 and March 23rd, 2021. I'll entertain a motion to approve them together if that's acceptable.
So moved.
Mike, thank you.
Second. Heather, second.
Heather, second. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. That looks unanimous. As usual, Cassie, Brian, and I will be holding an agenda planning either next Monday or Tuesday early evening. If you have any ideas, we're making notes as we go along, but if anything occurs that you'd like added, please let us know. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is April 27th at 6:30. If there's an executive session, that'll be happening probably at 6, but we will certainly let you know.
Can I add something?
Sure.
At the end here is two things on the six-town regional
Oh, yes.
study board. I want to thank Brian for forwarding the course program of studies to the group. I had been looking at that prior, and even though it's still not updated, it's wonderful to hear that we're going to have a physics course added before we can have AP physics. And secondly, last time in talking about that, Diane mentioned that she had updated her cover page and program information, which I did look at, and I just want to say it was concise, but it was also very comprehensive. I thought it was quite informative in that way, and it was also very inclusive for the audience that it's directed towards. And I wanted to just recognize that I had seen it and that the work that she had done looks very good. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Bill, thank you.
Second.
Heather, second. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Night.